Good afternoon, fifth graders. Our assignment tonight was to watch the video on comparing and ordering fractions with like and unlike denominators. So you will be able to write this in your Cornell notes. I will be able to, and then continue the lesson. Okay, when we are comparing or ordering fractions, what you are trying to do is figure out which fraction represents a larger or smaller space than another. So you're essentially trying to find out one that's bigger or smaller than another one. To compare fractions with the same denominator, you only need to look at the numerator. So this is with fractions that have the same or a common denominator. For example, if we are looking at 3/8 versus 6/8, I only need to look at the numerator because my denominator is the same. I know that both pieces of pie are divided into 8. In this case, I'm talking about 3 of those pieces of pie. And in this case, I am talking about 6 of those pieces. And I can clearly say that out of the 8th, 6 is more than 3. And so I can easily tell which is larger. 6/8 is larger than 3/8 because the numerator 6 is larger than 3. When it gets to be fractions of different denominator, it's a bit trickier. If you just look at the numerator, you could be wrong. So for example, if we look at 3/5 versus 2/3 and we only look at the numerator, we are going to assume that 3/5 is larger because 3 is larger than 2. Our numerator here is larger than our numerator here. However, when we look at them side by side, we see 3/5 here and we see 2/3 here. If I overlap one over the other, not working. Let's try that again. If I overlap this one on top of this one, you can see that actually 2/3 is larger than 3/5. So just looking at the numerator when we have unlike denominators does not work when it comes to comparing fractions. So we need another strategy. There is a more efficient and mathematical way, and we're going to look at that one. You can compare fractions easier by renaming the fractions with common denominators. So for example, if we have 3/5 versus 2/3, we want to rewrite the fractions using a common denominator, which was our last lesson. We would start by listing out the multiples of 5 and the multiples of 3, looking for the least common multiple. So here we have our multiples of 5, our multiples of 3, and we can see that 15 is a common multiple, so we know our common denominator would be 15. So if we're going to change these into 15, I want to make my, not 5, I want to make my 3/5 into an equivalent fraction with 15 as the denominator, and my 2/3 into an equivalent fraction with 15 as my denominator. To get from 5 to 15, I times by 3. To get 3, I then times by 3 again, and I have 9. This one, 3 to 15, I have 5. 2 to there, I times by 5, and I have 10. So my two equivalent fractions are now 9/15 and 10/15. So when I look at my 9/15 and my 10/15, I can very easily go back to my original way of looking at equivalent fractions with common denominator, and then I only need to look at my numerator. And I can see that clearly 10/15 is larger than 9/15. All right? Now, I want you to go ahead, pause the video, and you try to figure out which fraction is larger. Okay, so you would have started by finding the multiples of 7, multiples of 3. We can see that 21 is a common, so I know our common denominator has to be 21. 4/7 equal 21 times by 3. I'm going to times by 3 here. So I have 12/21. Over here, my 2/3, I want to have it equal 1 with 21. 3 to 21 is 7. 2 times 7 is 14. So I am now comparing my equivalent fractions of 12 21sts and 14 21st, and I can clearly see that 14 21st is larger than 12 21st, which means 2/3 is larger than 4/7. All right, I would like you to look at these three sets of fractions, figure out which one is larger, and write that down to share tomorrow. And then there is one more page, a little challenge for you. What I want you to do is I want you to use the same thinking and strategy and put these fractions in order from least to greatest. So first of all, you need to put these in order from least to greatest. Then what I want you to do is you need to write a paragraph with complete sentences, explaining your thought process. How did you take the strategy we used to compare two fractions and put it in to use to do this in order to put them in order from least to greatest? And you are going to post your paragraph on the Moodle forum for this lesson. So when you scroll down on this lesson, you will be able to write your paragraph and we will review them tomorrow. Good luck.